Good morning and welcome to the 445 Productive Through Joy Show with your host and your boy, Dr. Michael Datcher. The show airs each weekday morning, hella early AF at 4:45 a.m. here on YouTube's Michael Datcher channel and 4:45 p.m. on Facebook Live. Guys, today we're talking about divinity and how embracing one's what we call divinity, which we'll explain in a second, can completely enhance your productivity and just give you a heightened level of joy. There's no two ways about that. So thanks for being with us. If you're new, you can go to productivethroughjoy.com, see about us. We speak to groups, schools, and organizations about being productive through joy. You can simply go to michaeldatcher.com as well, as we are upgrading our website right now. I'm not sure if that's even done yet, but it'll be done soon. But michaeldatcher.com will also link you to the information. So if you're new, allow me to say a few words about myself. This is your host and your boy, Dr. Michael Datcher, author of the New York Times bestseller, Raising Fences, author of the acclaimed historical novel Americas, author of Animating Black and Brown Liberation, a theory of American literatures. I'm the board president of a great nonprofit here in LA's Crenshaw District called the World Stage. My educational background is UC Berkeley as an undergrad, my master's from UCLA, and my PhD in English lit from the University of California at Riverside. Guys, I'm an expert at being productive, all right, through joy. I don't say that to brag or boast. I say it because people are oftentimes surprised to hear that level of productivity given how crazy my own personal narrative is. I am the product of a young girl who was assaulted at age 16, gave birth to me at 17, and subsequently gave me up for adoption to a single divorcee. So at the time, no biological father, no adopted father. Listen, difficult times for a young MD at his cool, Modi famously said back in the day. How you like me now? And if I can be this productive and be so through joy, I know many people can, which really inspires the show and really inspires me, because I know it's not where you're from, it's where you're about to go. So thanks for joining us here. So let's dive in. So we're talking today, guys, about divinity. And point one, let me just put this out there, is that I am claiming for you and knowing for you and for everyone, actually, that you are divine, that you literally are made of the very same substance as the divine. So if you know, have even cursory knowledge of the so-called major religions, they will speak, but also not the so-called major ones, but certainly many of the Western African traditions, which I know mostly about, but Western African traditions, especially the ancient Egyptian or Kemetic tradition, they speak a great deal about this idea that, in fact, they're in Egypt, in ancient Egypt, which they call Kemet, that vowels and these names are inserted as a way to pronounce these words. There were no hieroglyphs. There were no vowels in the early script. But so Kemet, which means the land of the blacks. The black people, they call themselves Kemal, believe that a person's journey on life is all about knowing the self, which is to know the God inside the self. They call themselves, a person who would elevate to that level is called an Asar, A-U-S-A-R, at times spelled A-S-A-R in the sacred text. But so that was the actual, so knowing that God was inside of you, knowing that you were divine, was their fundamental building block to their whole belief, spiritual cosmology. So for many traditions, this is a big thing, a major part of how they organize spirituality. So what I'm saying to you is that whatever a tradition you are a part of, it is likely that this is a major part of that belief system, that you are made in the likeness, the image of God. So what does that mean? Practically, that you're made of the same stuff, the same quality, so you're qualitatively the same. And not to get too deep of a, although I am going on for a long time on this point, so I do want to make it clear. The implications of this, that's the point, are extraordinary. If you're made of the same stuff, the same likeness of God, that means that you can do what God can do, not in the same quantity, so not with the same power, but you have the potential and can do what the divine can do. That you can, for example, you can create. And that is the point I'm getting to in this long roundabout way. You can create the life that you want. Those are just facts. Point two is that the thing, though, is that it isn't just about creating a life to get a Lamborghini. Although I'm pro Lamborghinis. Get a Lamborghini if you want to get that. That's fine, But as part of, so when these ideas began to gain popularity in kind of pop culture through a book called The Secret, and there's also a DVD tethered to that, which is great. You know, these ideas are very, very powerful. The drawback, I don't want to call it a drawback, but people would focus on the acquisition aspects of it because it is true. You may have heard of the law of attraction, which is that's a real thing, right? You can hold ideas and thoughts in your minds, believe that they will manifest, and they will manifest. That's actually a real thing. And so people began to focus on that part of it, which because it actually does work. Okay, uh, not as effectively or as consistently as using this power for the good of the planet. But it still does work. That is a part of it. Abundance, because abundance is natural, and your thoughts are things. And when you hold a thought in your mind, you can actually attract a Lamborghini. I mean, I'm being facetious, but not really, because that's a real thing. Okay, but you know, when you can get to the level when you're thinking, okay, wow, if I'm made in God's image, if it is true that all things came from one thing, and then that the reason that we're alive is to give this divine being experience on earth. So although the divine, call it spirit of God, Yahweh, whatever you want to call it, Amen, is this all-knowing thing, it's omniscient, it couldn't have experience, at least on the earth, without having people. And so as the people on the earth, God is having experienced the good and the bad through us. All right, so if that's true, the implications are that literally we are here in service of God, which I know sounds kind of controversial or a little weird, but for a show like this, but those are the implications of what I'm kind of, you play it out to its natural extension. So when that's your mindset, it just changes everything. And now that you still can't get your Lamborghini and be about being in the service of God, certainly you can do that. Knock yourself out if that's what you want to do. But when your attitude, because for many of us, God is just love, it makes you think about being in the service of love, loving your fellow person, loving your neighbor, loving your family, loving yourself. If God is love and you're in the service of God, that means that you are in the service of love, what I call infinite one love, right? So that just changes your whole dynamic. And when that's your day-to-day life, I'm here to tell you, you will, I just got to chill saying that, because that will, if you can just grasp that idea and live that life, and it takes work for me. I mean, and not that I've got it. It's a journey. You know, you never really get something like that. It's such a big idea, but it's a daily lifestyle. But once you're living in the service of love, or what I would call infinite one love, it's a great way to live life, because you experience such a full, I can't even really articulate it clearly, but life is just bigger, broader. You experience life in a much more intense way. So good and bad. Because at times when people see that you're about love, they try to exploit it. They think it's weakness, and you have to defend that at times and go through a bunch of stuff to live this lifestyle, because it does involve kind of a radical vulnerability, which is also super dangerous. But ultimately, in the long run, because there is just one thing, which is God, or the divine, or I would say one love, that in the long run, the one love is going to prevail. Even when people are acting small and being petty and being ungodly, even those in your close circle, which at times is one of the hardest parts of this lifestyle, is that people closest to you have the power to really hurt you the most, and at times they will. That's going to happen. So get ready for that one. But even those people, I mean, you know, like that can't be sustained. You can't, yeah, in my experience, the people who do that, in my experience, I shouldn't probably get into that, but, you know, if that's you, you don't want that for your life. All right. So ultimately, though, which goes into point 3, when you're living a life of the divine, meaning living a life in service of what I would call love, or infinite one love, you are going to have an absolute uptick in your productivity, and you're going to be hella joyful. Like this. All right, guys, we'll see you this afternoon at 4:45 p.m. Until then, let's talk about it and be about it. Deuces, I'm out.